Good morning. Today's class is regarding RAS and its lesion. What is RAS? It is a reticular activating system. So, what is the definition for this RAS? Reticular formation is a diffused mass of neurons. It is a diffused mass of neurons and a nerve fibers which form an ill-defined meshwork of reticulum in central portion of the brainstem. Okay, this RAS, it can be asked for a 3-mark question or in the MCQs. So, where it is situated, reticular formation? It is situated in the brainstem. It extends downwards into the spinal cord and upwards up to thalamus and subthalamus. So, it is from thalamus and subthalamus to up to spinal cord. Organization of the reticular formation. Reticular formation is constituted by 5 groups of nuclei. Which are those 5 groups? All these nuclei of 5 groups are structurally, functionally, they are distinct in nature. So, which are the 5 groups of a nucleus which forms a reticular formation? The first one is Rc group. The Rc group of nuclei are situated along the midline of the brainstem, a continuous column. It forms a continuous column from the midline of the brainstem forming this Rc group. Rc nuclei secrete serotonin, that is 5-HT. 5-HT is 5-hydroxytryptamine, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. This Rc nuclei which secretes the serotonin, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. The second group of a nuclei is paramedian group of a nuclei. Paramedian group which includes nucleus, reticularis, paramedians and Pontine reticulotegmental nucleus. So, in this paramedian group, it includes nucleus, reticularis, paramedianus and Pontine reticulotegmental nucleus. So, these are the 2 groups which is there in the paramedian group. These nuclei are concerned with the motor function. You should remember this Rc group will secrete the inhibitory neurotransmitter, that is serotonin. Paramedian will concern with the motor function. Then third one is the lateral group. Lateral group of nuclei are situated in the lateral 1/3 of the tegmentum. It consists of a nuclei with a small cells, that is small is parvo cellular cells. The neurons of this nuclei receive sensory signals from the cranial nerves, cerebellum and spinal cord. So, this is situated in the lateral 1/3 of the tegmentum, which consists of a nuclei with a small, that is a parvo cellular cells. Neurons of this nuclei receive sensory signals from the cranial nerves, cerebellum and spinal cord. The fourth group of nuclei is a medial group of a nuclei are situated in the medial 2/3 of the tegmentum. It consists of a nuclei with a small cells and giant cells. Small cells are the parvo cells, giant cells are the gigantocellular cells. Nuclei of this group form the major output of the reticular formation and send the fibers to the hypothalamus, thalamus and spinal cord. These nuclei are associated with the motor functions. Okay, this is again the motor function. The fifth group of nuclei is a intermediate group of a nuclei. Intermediate group of a nuclei are presented only in the medulla. It is situated between the lateral and the medial group of a nuclei. These nuclei are concerned with the autonomic regulation of the respiration, heart rate and blood pressure. Okay, this is for a respiration, heart rate and a blood pressure. These are the 5 group of a nuclei which constitute for a reticular formation. Which are the 5? Raphe group of nucleus which is a inhibitory neurotransmitter. Paramedian group of a nuclei which is concerned with the motor function. Lateral group of a nuclei. Medial group of a nuclei and intermediate group of a nuclei concerned with the autonomic regulation of a respiration, heart rate and a blood pressure. Coming to the division of the reticular formation. This reticular formation is divided into 3 divisions based on the location in the brainstem. Based on the location, it is divided into 3 groups. One is Medullary reticular formation because it is situated in the medulla, Pontine reticular formation and a midbrain reticular formation. Each division of a reticular formation has its own collection of a nuclei. So the nuclei of the medullary reticular formation, which has a group of a nuclei, all this will contribute for the medullary reticular formation. So which are the nuclei here is lateral reticular nucleus, ventral reticular nucleus, dorsal reticular nucleus, gigantocellular reticular nucleus, paragigantocellular reticular nucleus, paramedian reticular nucleus, parvocellular reticular nucleus and magnocellular reticular nucleus. These are all the nuclei which contribute for the medullary reticular formation. Then nuclei of the midbrain reticular formation. It has red nucleus, nucleus tegmental, pedunculopontis, nuclear reticular subtudiformis. So this is the 3 nuclei of the midbrain reticular formation. Then coming to the connections of the reticular formation. So it has a connections both afferent and efferent. As you know, the afferent are the ones which carry the signals from the body to the brain, efferents which will give us signals from the brain to the other parts of the body which are respective functions to be needed. Then these afferents or connections of the reticular formations are which this receives a collateral from almost all the ascending sensory pathways. Now you should remember which are the ascending sensory tracts which you have already learnt. So it also receives the fibers from different parts of the brain like optic pathway, olfactory pathway, auditory pathway, taste pathway. All these are what type of senses? They are the special senses. Okay, the optic pathway, olfactory, auditory and the taste are the special senses. Next, coming to the spinal, trigeminal pathways carrying touch sensation, pathways for a pain, temperature, vibration and kinesthetic sensations. Then from the cerebral cortex, then cerebellum, corpus striatum and thalamic nuclei. These are the afferent connections for the reticular formation. Next, efferent. The reticular formation sends the fibers to the following parts of the CNS. That they are cerebral cortex and diencephalon, that includes thalamus, hypothalamus and the subthalamus. So these are the flow diagram showing the afferent connections of the reticular formation. This is a reticular formation from the cerebellum. It has an input from cortex, corpus striatum, thalamus. From the spinal cord, it is ascending pathways, ascending sensory pathways, that is for a touch, pain, temperature and kinesthetic sensation. And from the special senses, optic pathway, auditory pathway, olfactory and the taste pathway. If you remember this diagram, it's easier to write a afferent connections rather than writing in a flowchart or a theory form. Coming to the efferent connections of the reticular formation. The reticular formation sends the signals to the cortex, cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus and subthalamus, then spinal cord and red nucleus, substantia nigra and tegmentum. These are all the efferent connections for the reticular formation. So in the midbrain, it is red nucleus, tegmentum, substantia nigra, which gives a part in the reticular formation, cerebellum and the spinal cord. These are all the efferents. Then coming to the, now you saw the nucleus, which contribute for a reticular formation, classification depending on the site where it is present, reticular formation, then afferent and efferents of a reticular formation. Now we will see what are the functions of reticular formation. Based on the function, reticular formation, along with its connections, it is divided into two systems. One is ARAS, that is ascending reticular activating system. Second is descending reticular system. So ascending reticular system, descending reticular system. In ascending reticular activating system, that is ARAS, begins in the lower part of the brainstem, which extends upwards through a pons, midbrain, thalamus and finally projects throughout the cerebral cortex. It projects into the cerebral cortex in two ways, via subthalamus and thalamus. This ARAS, this is the fibers from the sensory pathways via the long ascending spinal tract. Okay, they receive the fibers from long ascending spinal tract. These are pain, temperature and kinesthetic sensations. So what is the function of this ARAS? As the name indicates, it is concerned with the arousal phenomena, alertness, maintenance of attention and wakefulness. ARAS is mainly for these functions, to be in arousal state, alert, maintenance of attention and wakefulness. Hence it is called as a ascending reticular activating system. Stimulation of the midbrain reticular formation produces wakefulness by generalized activation of the entire brain including the cerebral cortex. Thalamus, basal ganglia and brainstem. Any type of sensory impulses such as the impulses of the proprioception, that is from the joints, pain, auditory, visual, taste and olfactory sensations cause sudden activation of the ARAS, producing a arousal phenomena in animals and in the human beings. Even the impulses of the visceral sensation activate this system. Sympathetic stimulation and adrenaline causes arousal by affecting the midbrain. The ARAS also causes an emotional reaction along with the alertness and arousal. It also causes an emotional reaction. It plays important role in regulating a learning process and development of a conditioned reflexes. Okay. So after this function, what is the mechanism that acts? Yeah, how does it act? The mechanism of action of a ARAS. The impulses of all sensation reach the cerebral cortex through two channels. One is classical sensory pathways. Second one is ascending reticular activating system. The classical are specific sensory pathways. The classical sensory pathways are the pathways which transmit the sensory impulses from the receptor to the cerebral cortex via the thalamus. Some of the pathways carry impulses of the particular sensations only. It's like a same way as a ascending tracts, how the particular tract will carry the respective sensation to be carried by it. Okay. For example, auditory stimulus is stimulated by auditory pathway, reaches the auditory cortex via the thalamus and causes a perception of the sound. Then such as a classical sensory pathways called a specific sensory pathways. So this is a diagram showing the ascending reticular formation. That is this blue color one is a classical afferent pathway. Then this whole thing within inside whatever is there is a ascending reticular formation. This here medulla, cerebellum and the cerebral cortex. This side is a thalamus, midbrain and a pons. Depending on the site, as I told, it's already the midbrain reticular formation, pontine and a thalamic reticular formation. Depending on the site, it has been classified. This classical afferent pathway which gives the collaterals for the main ascending reticular formation. Okay. Coming to the functional division of the reticular formation, whatever was told in the theory format, it is in a flowchart format. This reticular formation is divided into ascending reticular activating system, descending reticular activating system. In descending, again it is a descending inhibitory reticular formation, descending facilitatory reticular formation. So the ARAs are the non-specific sensory pathways. All the sensory pathways send collaterals to the ARAs, which is a multi-synaptic relay system. These collaterals project in the diffused areas of ARAs. So the sensory impulses transmitted via the collaterals will reach the different parts of the ARAs. It also receives the afferents from the spinal cord directly in the form of a spino-reticular tract. ARA central sends the impulses to almost all the areas of the cerebral cortex, other parts of the brain. Hence, this pathway is called as a non-specific sensory pathway. Okay. This non-sensory projections of ARAs into the cortex is responsible for the arousal, alertness and wakefulness. Sensory impulses transmitted directly to the cortex via the classical pathway causes perception of only the particular sensations. So, classical as a particular sensation which is being carried, whereas the impulses transmitted to the cortex via ARS do not cause any perception of any particular sensation, but causes a generalized activation of almost all the areas of the cerebral cortex and other parts of the brain. This leads to the reactions of arousal, alertness and wakefulness, which is a function of ARAs. The ARAs in turn controlled by the feedback signals from the cerebral cortex. Also, an inhibitory system controls the activities of the ARAs. The inhibitory system involves the posterior hypothalamus, intralamellar and anterior thalamic nuclei, medullary area at the level of the tractus solitarius. Tumor or a lesion in ARAs leading to the sleeping sickness or a coma. Why? Because this is the function of it is being lost. So function is to keep alert arousal, right? So when there is a tumor, the function of it is being inhibited. So it leads to the sleeping sickness and sometimes it may lead to the coma. The impact of head injury on ARAs also causes a coma. This is regarding the ARAs. Next, coming to the descending reticular system. Descending reticular system, which includes a reticular formation in the brainstem, reticulospinal tract and a reticular formation in the spinal cord. It modifies the activities of the spinal motor neurons. Functionally, this descending tract is divided into two subdivisions. One is descending facilitatory reticular system. Second is descending inhibitory reticular system. Descending facilitatory reticular system is present in the upper and the lateral reticular formation. Its function are the facilitation of somatomotor activities. The descending facilitatory reticular system maintains the tone of the muscle by exciting the gamma motor neurons in the spinal cord. the stimulation of this area causes a increased muscle tone. Facilitation of the reticular activating system, it is been activated, then there will be a increased muscle tone. Next, it also facilitates the movement of the body, and stimulation of this part of the reticular system causes exaggerated movements, and it plays a role in a wakefulness and a alertness by activating the ARAS. The facilitation of a vegetative functions, is the center for the facilitation of the autonomic functions such as a cardiac function, blood pressure, respiration, gastrointestinal function, and a temperature. Next, descending inhibitory reticular system. Descending inhibitory reticular system is located in the small area in the lower medial reticular formation. Its function are control of somatomotor activities. In that, the descending inhibitory reticular plays role in a control of a tone of a muscle. Descending facilitative will facilitate and increase the tone of a muscle, whereas the inhibitory will inhibit the control the tone of the muscle. By receiving the signals from the basal ganglia, it inhibits the gamma motor neurons of the spinal cord and decreases the muscle tone. Then stimulation of this area causes decreased tone of the muscle. This is responsible for a smoothness and accuracy of the voluntary movements. Descending inhibitory pathway will help in the voluntary movements. It controls the muscular activity by inhibiting the motor neurons of the spinal cord. It also controls the reflex movements. Next, control of a vegetative functions like it is a center for inhibition of several autonomic functions such as cardiac function, blood pressure, respiration, gastrointestinal function, and body temperature. So this is regarding the reticular activating system. So what and all you learned? So what is reticular activating system? The nuclei which contribute for the reticular activating system. Then classification or division of a reticular activating system with respect to their site where it is present. Then afferent and efferent of a reticular system. Then functions of a reticular system. So this is regarding the reticular activating system. Okay, and lesion also then and there I told what happens if it is being affected or a tumor or any lesions in the RAS will cause. So this is regarding the topic. Now we will see a few MCQs. So the ionic basis of EPSP is which one? The entry of a sodium ion, exit of a sodium ion, entry of a chloride ion, exit of a chloride ion. End plate potential. This the answer is entry of a sodium ions. The ionic basis of IPSP is entry of a sodium ion, exit of a sodium ion, entry of a chloride ion, exit of a chloride ion. Answer for this is exit of a, answer is C, that is the entry of a chloride ion is the basis for the IPSP. Next, coming to the additional stimuli, addition of two stimuli given in relation to time is temporal summation, spatial summation, quantal summation, wave summation. Answer is addition of two stimuli will give a more result. So which is that? It's a temporal summation. Addition of two stimuli is given in relation to space, that is for a time. Here it is a space. So it is a time is T for, see here time. In addition to time, T for T is temporal summation. Here space, S for S, it is a spatial summation. The receptor for the stretch reflex is muscle spindle, Golgi tendon organ, pectineal corpuscles, Ruffini's end organ. Answer is A, muscle spindle. Next, in decerebrate rigidity or in animal where experimental animal where decerebrate rigidity is there, the lesion is made at the which level? Mid-collicular level, cerebellar cortex, medulla and cerebellum. Answer is mid-collicular level. Next, semicircular canal help in the detection of dash movement. It's a rotatory, side to side, anterior, posterior or oblique. Answer is rotatory movement. Semicircular canals. Next, innate reflex is called as dash reflex, conditioned reflex, unconditioned reflex, superficial or polysynaptic reflex. So, innate is an inborn. Inborn reflex is called unconditioned reflex. The reflexes which you learn is conditioned reflex. Next, paralysis of one half of the body is termed as what? Hemiplegia, monoplegia, quadriplegia, paraplegia. Answer is A, hemiplegia, one half of the body. Mono is involving any one, either one hand, one leg, one hand, any one. Quadri is all four. Para is one hand and one leg. Next, paralysis of all four limbs is a quadriplegia. Paralysis of one limb is a monoplegia. Paralysis of both the lower limb is paraplegia. Okay. Dorsal root is sensory, ventral root is motor. This is called what? Dorsal root is sensory, ventral root is a motor. It's called what? Bell-Medullary law, Weber-Fechner's law, law of projection, doctrine of specific nerve energy. So answer is what? Answer is A, Bell-Medullary law. So dorsal root is sensory, ventral root is motor. Narcolepsy is a disease characterized by a lack of a sleep, walking in a sleep, excessive sleep in a daytime, excessive snoring during sleep. What is the answer? Narcolepsy is a excessive sleep in a daytime. Sleep, walking in a sleep, what do you call? Snowambulism is a walking in a sleep. The perception of a pain in the region of a skin away from the site of its production internally is referred pain, visceral pain, somatic pain, slow pain. Answer is what? It's a referred pain. The perception of a pain in the region of the skin away from the site of the production internally. Example, as we have taken in the class, it is a cardiac pain which will refer to the medial side of the left hand side to other upper arm is a referred pain. The pain due to inflammation of the appendix felt around the umbilicus is an example for referred pain, visceral pain, somatic pain and a slow pain. Answer is referred pain. Okay, this is regarding the topic. Okay, so please do read then and there. We have come to the already little bit 3/4 portion in the CNS we have been completed. Please don't neglect, read.